Welcome back, and today we have a double header with the Divo Knives Nip and the TakCom Prototype. Divo Knives Nip will be dropping tomorrow on their site at 10/19/23 at 1 p.m. Eastern Time. This variation, which is called the Jack Sparrow with black pearl camo carbon, looks stunning, and it comes with black accents with a black pivot rings, backspacer, and pocket clip. And of course, he's going to have kits and stuff as well. I just did one on this side to show you. This is the blue anodized kit. It comes with the pivot collars, the pocket clip, and the backspacers. They will also have two different exclusive versions. They're both titanium scale. One's at White Mountain Knives and at Traditional Pocket Knives. Now, I have a discount code for y'all. I'll put it up here on the screen, and I'll also have links to everything down in the description as well. The other variation they have is called the Purple Nurple, and it has purple camo carbon with purple titanium accents on it. The Nip is an excellent fifth pocket carry knife. Comes in at 5.45 inches long, and it has a tiny 2.25 inch blade, but don't be fooled, it's a super useful little blade. The steel is CPM S90V with a blade stock thickness of 0.11. It has a beautiful satin finish. You have vertical on the primary and horizontal on the flats. You got a nice little swedge that comes up and over just for some added flair. I think it looks really nice. Well executed functional jimping, well placed. So if you want to put your thumb there, you can. You have a dedicated 50/50 forward finger choil that should fit most fingers nicely. And it also doubles as a sharpening choil. You should have a good bit of sharpening life before it starts to even think about widening in the back right here. Love how they kept the blade sterile completely. Your blade steel marking is on the tang right here. There you go. You have a needle-like tip right there. Excellent for doing drag cuts. If you need to make a very precise precision cut, you can get tons of control over that tip, dragging it through something. It's an excellent utility blade shape. You got some nice straight edge right there. It's a modified sheep's foot blade. That's what they're calling this. And the thing that I like the most on this, besides the aesthetics, is the deep hollow grind they have on here. Let's see if I can kind of show you this. Got a very deep hollow grind that comes down to around 12 thousandths behind the edge. So this thing sliced like a dream. It went through the cardboard effortlessly, and it, at first I was like, oh, that's a small little blade. Will it be useful for doing a little bit bigger task? And yes, I think it's because it's a straight edge, so you're going to get full power from the heel all the way to that tip when you're pushing through something. So cardboard is going to excel at. Rope cutting it's going to excel. Like if you have to cut through some rope. And like I said, doing those fine, precise cuts so you can kind of guide that tip through what you're cutting. It's useful for, breaking down boxes, opening up packages, and I find the smaller blades are good for making that quick cut and then putting it back up. It's not going to scare anybody, and it works perfect in that fifth pocket. Especially this variation because you have the carbon fiber scales with an inset. You have inset stainless steel liners in there, and they have been heavily skeletonized. So this thing weighs nothing. It comes in at 2.1 ounces, absolute featherweight. And my medium-sized hands, because of that forward choil, I still get a nice 4-finger grip. And I'm locked in. I can get a lot of power. Whenever I did testing the ergos, when I was pushing through the wood, it was nice and comfortable. Now, I could feel this pocket clip, but I wouldn't call it a hot spot. It didn't bother me enough to where I had to stop. But once again, are you going to be sitting there for hours whittling and stuff? Maybe you might, but I mean, I'm definitely not. If I know I'm going to be doing something like that, I'm going to grab, the right tool for the job if I can. If not, hopefully I have one of my bigger knives on me. I usually have 2 knives at all times. But yeah, everything that I did, I thought this thing really excelled. Now, one limitation with a straight edge, cutting on a flat surface, you either have to raise the stuff up onto something so you can cut straight through and you can have more cutting edge going through it, or you can put it in front or push it in and pull through, and you're only going to be using that forward portion of the edge if you do that kind of stuff. But it can all be done. It's just you gotta know what you're doing with your knife, and you gotta see what part of that edge is going through your material. I thought it performed nicely. I love S90V. It takes a very aggressive toothy edge, and so far think this is the second or third knife that I've tested from Kubi with S90V, and I find they do a pretty good job with it. I haven't had any major issues or anything. No edge damage. Let me feel this edge. Yeah, there's no chips or anything in the edge, no rolls that I feel. It still feels pretty good. All you can ask for a sub 3-inch blade. Now let's check out the deployment and action of the knife. It is riding on ceramic ball bearings with a ceramic detent ball. It has a minimal flipper tab that has some nice jimping there for texture, and you have that blade hole. This thing has a really, really nice positive action to it. It comes rocketing out with that flipper, or you can reverse flick it, you can slow roll it, all the things. I love the micro milling they have. It's not just a chamfer, but it's also got some checkering down here, like a diamond texturing on this side and right here. I think it looks really, really nice. And I love whenever you have pivot collars and accents that are titanium, so you can anodize them. You can get them black. You know, the titanium backspacer has an integrated lanyard loop in there. I think that's their first one that they've done. And then you have the milled tie clip. It functions nicely, especially on this carbon fiber. It's not super grippy, so even though it has a little bit tighter of retention, it goes in and out of my pockets nicely. I had no issues with it. And I think of all the fancy carbon fibers, I think camo carbon is one of my favorites over fat carbon. I just like the way it looks. It has a more carbon fiber look to it instead of all kinds of crazy colors. Some of them do have the crazy colors, but I love the look of this black pearl. You don't have any voids. T8 hardware throughout, countersunk and flush. I love seeing that. And as you can see, there's a hole right there because it is reversible. Tip up, left or right hand carry. Your lockup on this knife is sitting at around, I'd say 40% or so. Absolutely no play any direction. Very tight lockup for such a small knife. Access to the lock bar, outstanding. Nice and comfortable to get my finger in there, no problem. Now for some size comparisons, it's very similar in overall length to the Civivi Baby Banter, and it's a little bit bigger than the ProTech Runt 5. Next, we have the Spyderco Dragonfly 2, which is a little bit longer, and probably the best overall size reference I have is a QSP Mini Penguin. Identical in length, and they feel similar in hand. However, due to the forward finger choil, you have much better purchase, more grip area with the Nip. Nitpicks, complaints, I mean, the only thing I could really say, but I get why they have it here. You know, if the pocket clip was down the middle, it would be more comfortable for more people, but like I said, it wasn't really a hot spot for me, so is it really an issue? You know, I just had to be very nitpicky there. I get it. They're doing it because they're using that screw, so you don't have to have an extra screw if you don't need it. So that way you only have one hole right here. But other than that, I think it's an outstanding little folder. Now, these are a premium knife. They come in premium steel, premium materials. And this particular version is coming in at $175. The two that Divo will have with the carbon fiber. I'm not sure exactly how much the titanium versions are for white mountain knives and traditional pocket knives. Make sure if I didn't put it on the screen, I do have a discount code that I'll have down in the description. Also, I have all the necessary links down there. And that discount code, I'm pretty sure, works for all three places. If that's not correct, I will let you know. So there you go. That's that one. Next up, we're taking a look at this TakCom prototype. I've reviewed some of their out the front knives, and they were super high quality. This is his first foray into folding knives, and that's exciting because he has some pretty cool designs. Now, this one right here, after talking with him, he said one of his favorite knives is the CKF Evo. And he took inspiration from that, but I definitely don't think it looks like a clone or anything. Pretty different blade. And overall, I think the aesthetics, you got a ramp and stuff like that. Now, this knife does not, or at least the time I'm shooting this, does not have a name yet. And he hasn't nailed down an OEM. He just he wants to get some feedback on what we think about it. And if y'all have any feedback for him, definitely leave it down in the comments. He will be down in the comments reading y'all comments. So definitely let him know that. So this is a more medium to large knife coming in at 7.95 inches. At least this prototype is. You have a 3.38 inch blade. I'm pretty sure this is a flat grind from what it looks like. Yeah, pretty certain that's a flat grind. A nice top swedge right here that's pretty nice looking, and a concave clip right there with a very, very aggressive needle-like tip. Super bulky. You have a nice stone wash finish. I think that looks very nice. Much rather that than a blasted finish or something like that. This will hide wear really well. You got some jimping with a little thumb ramp. The jimping is pretty grippy. Like I said earlier, the OEM or whoever made this one may not be the actual OEM, so we're kind of just talking about what I see. You have a good sharpening choil executed perfectly. You can see that plunge line comes to about right here, so you're going to have a good bit of sharpening before it starts to widen up back there. I found the blades slice pretty darn well. You can choke up if you want to on the knife, and being that you have a tall grind, it was a good slicer. Now, it could have been, in my opinion, a lot better of a slicer. I would love to see a deep hollow grind on here, kind of like the Evo, so you could thin this out some, because it's about 22 thousandths behind the edge right now. I don't know what the edge bevel is on it, but I could definitely tell it wasn't super thin behind the edge. You know, a knife like this with a super aggressive point, you know, it would be great to have it nice and thin behind the edge too. You don't have to do that same thinness up to the tip. You could kind of do like somewhat of a compound grind and leave that a little bit thicker if you'd like. But a hollow grind at that height, whoo, this thing would slice so well. Still perform nicely. I don't know exactly the steel on this one. I think he said M390, but I could be wrong. I wasn't really testing for edge retention with this one. The tip sits below the pivot, so you can easily get it down on the things. And like I said, it's very nice and pokey right there. And doing drag cuts through things, it's like a little scalpel. It's going to be pretty good at pretty much any type of cutting you do. Nothing that I cut up really gave it that much issue, but like I said, I definitely can tell when a knife is nicely thinly ground, because it passes through the material a lot faster. And the edge too, I don't know what type of edge it had on it before. So like I said, I'm not trying to see the edge retention, just kind of seeing how it slices, how it feels while it's slicing, and I thought it did pretty darn good. Whenever I got to the wood shaving to test those ergos, this handle was very, very comfortable. It's got a nice contour to it. Feels out the hand nicely. Felt locked in. I could either choke back or choke up. I think I choked up whenever I was doing the wood shaving. I felt like I had a lot of power that I could put into the wood, and I had no hot spots that I could feel. The clip stayed out of my way, and overall, it just felt really, really good in hand. Another area this knife shined was in the deployment and action of the knife. This thing has such a satisfying action. You got the blade hole for a reverse flick, and it comes rocketing out. It's got a nice drop shut action once you let it go, and it has that clack sound whenever it hits into the frame. I think it's because of the skeletonization, but no matter how I do it, it's got a nice positive click, and it's not something you see that often with a button lock nowadays. It doesn't. Most of them don't seem to have that nice positive snap to it. This one, very, very nice, and it's very solid as well. I did some light spine whacking, nothing crazy because it is a prototype. It is recessed, so you don't accidentally press it, and it's not super hard. No button stick that I can feel yet is on bearings. I'm pretty sure it's ceramic bearings. The handle's pretty plain. You got a blasted finish there. Flush pivot. T8 hardware throughout. I love seeing that. Love that. Now, your pocket clip is another thing that I don't love. The pocket clip's pretty darn long, and you got that much of the knife sticking out of your pocket. I would have much preferred the pocket clip be about right here and curved in this manner. That way you got a better chance of, you know, it staying out of the palm nicely. Now, I'm going to say I did not feel it at all. I think the way this steps down right there, and everything has a nice chamfer on it. There's no sharp areas. Now, it does go in and out of the pocket nicely because the longer clip allows it to flex more. But I think it looks a little odd there, but I would have much rather see, instead of using that body screw, put the clip in the middle, even with that pivot. Y'all let me know what y'all think about that. I like how he has the forward finger choil area, this little flat spot, something that we did on the Fireball as well. You have a flush titanium backspacer, tons of internal milling. Look at all that pocketing. I mean, tons of milling. Keeping the weight down, coming in at 4.5 ounces. And I mean, that's because you have such a big chunk of steel there and some pretty thick slabs of tie with the tie backspacer. So, you know, I didn't find it cumbersome in the pocket. Now, it is a little wide in the pocket. If you don't like, you know, something taking up a lot of pocket space, then this might not be the knife for you. Blade is perfectly centered. Now, it is tip up right hand carry only. I have no idea. He may be making a lefty version, or he may tab it for lefties. That's something you would have to ask him. Here it is next to Ontario Route 1 and 2. Similar in size to the Spyderco Smock and the Kaiser Towser K. Nitpicks and complaints. I'm not the hugest fan of a concave tip like this. It's just a little aggressive for me. I would have loved to see this straight instead of that curved inward. Love to hear y'all thoughts on that. I know it kind of goes with this swoop there and there. Another thing that I would love to see a hollow grind, a nice deep hollow grind. Making this down to like 12 thousandths would make it just phenomenal. Pocket clip is a little long, and I would love to see the pocket clip move down to about in the middle, so it makes sure it stays out of the palm, even though I didn't have an issue with it. The last thing I could add, just because I've had this problem with a smaller knife before, it's always risky putting, you know, these two upward. You know, this one's fine, but whenever you have it here, if somebody has large hands, they may not be able to fit their hands in there. Like, I can fit my hands perfect, and I have a medium-sized hand. If somebody has a large hand, then their finger would probably land on that if they're not choked up, and that could be uncomfortable. But other than that, I will say this thing has remarkable action. I like the concept of the knife. I like the blade besides this dip right here. I like more of the Evo looking blade. It was very comfortable in hand. The action is remarkable. It makes a nice thwack when it opens. I like the little button with texture on it. Very fidgety. So yeah, I'd love to hear y'all thoughts down below. Let me know what you think. Let them know if there's anything you would love to see changed. Well, that will do it for today. If you like the video, hit the thumbs up. If you're not already, think about hitting that subscribe button. And if you have any questions, comments, concerns, please leave them down below. I hope everybody's having an absolute amazing day. I will see y'all on the next one. Peace out.